So, I haven't been a big fan of Bethesda lately. They have been pulling some really shady, cheap corporate bullshit as of the past few years. But I decided to give Fallout TV series a try. And to my surprise, it was actually pretty good. So the show starts out as if every other Fallout game, except New Vegas, you're a courier on that one, where you start out, the character is out in a vault dweller, and clearly this is gonna be the main character of the entire, like the main character of the entire series, because she's the vault dweller, and it gave a bit of a Fallout 3 vibe. My personal favorite Fallout game. New Vegas is good, but we'll get into that later. Different subject. So the beginning had like a bit of a Fallout 3 vibe, and I'm not gonna spoil anything. Basically, it started out like any other Fallout game in a vault would. You're in a vault, something happens, gotta go out into the actual wasteland. And much like the vault dwellers you see in the video games, all the other dwellers are really scared to go into the outside world with the rad roaches and Yao Guai and death claws. Plenty of reason to be like a little scared of the outside. And so after the vault dweller, you cut to another main character, Maximus, and he takes over the story arc for the Brotherhood of Steel. And it's a bit of a cliche story. He doesn't get what he wants, he kinda does some dirty stuff to get it. And he's like a very believable character. He's like a good guy, but he has some shadiness to him, and probably a shady backstory to him as well. Then you got the Ghoul, the cowboy western ghoul, who's anti-hero up the ass. Alright, like, he's not the worst guy out there, but he doesn't follow the hero code either. And he inevitably gave the Vault Dweller some harsh lessons into the wasteland, which is pretty cool. Um, there'll be some speeches or confrontations, more of a better word. They'll go down the show, and you can't help but think, man, the Vault Dweller should have had a higher charisma check. There's a scene with Stealth, and you can just like tell that her stealth wasn't the highest skill out there. So it's pretty cool. They kept true and accurate to like the actual games. They kept you kind of care for the characters, but they also kept the wacky, violent campiness that is also Fallout. They stay very true to the first two games with Shady Sands, but they also mix in the NCR. And while the NCR being decimated was a bit of a letdown, I believe this takes place a few years, like years and years after those events of Fallout 1 and 2 and New Vegas. And they did a really good job with combining like aspects of from all the games. They combined New Vegas NCRs with the Reclamation Day. Not going to spoil too much, but it's cool how they infiltrated the story of those two colliding together, those two aspects of two different games coming together. It's really fun seeing the characters learn to survive in different circumstances and situations in this post-apocalyptic world. Because in the world of Fallout, anything silly, wacky, downright violent, hostile can happen. So the main thing with the Vault Dweller is that her mission is to come out of the vault and make civilized land again, society. Make everybody get along pretty much. Only she comes to find out that those days are like far, 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 far away. It's in a total wasteland, and you can see that her Volt training to make the world a better place just isn't working out in this kind of world. Like, trust is a very hard thing to come by in a post-apocalyptic world. And she's trying to, like, enforce trust in a way, make the world not such a terrible place. But there's raiders, fiends, deathclaws, Yalguai, and a whole bunch of other shit out there that's trying to kill you, as it turns out. So, shockingly enough, her Volt training, like, it has been completely useless thus far. There were a few characters I didn't really care for at the beginning, but as the show went on, they actually ended up having a pretty interesting story arcs. People don't really count this guy as a main character, but Norm, I think his name is Norm, the kid that's still in the vault. People don't really register him as a main character, but he's got his own story going on. He's dealing with the drama and aftermath of the vault. And at first, I thought this kid was boring, right? I was like, oh my god, you are by far the worst thing in the show so far. But as the show progressed on, I started to kind of like him, dig the story, the mystery behind the vault.